Sorry to everybody that I couldn't make it to this week's podcast. I'm currently in Tulum, Mexico, drinking margaritas and dodging the cartels. But Bobby and Sean are going to have a good show with you guys, and I will see you guys next week. Who the fuck is Joe Brown signing out?
Guys, Jigs and Bigs. Man, we have one hell of a show this week. We have a little change up with who's hosting this show. You got myself, Bobby Roastbeef. I do have Sean the Fisherman here. Yes, he's left the ball bag in the car. He's here. It's fishing mode right now. But we have who the fuck is Joe Brown, as you might have heard. Joe was experiencing quite the wonderful little vacation in Mexico this week for a wedding, but he drank a little too much of the water and was not able to be here for the show. So luckily we have Brandon, the one and only Dust Off Fishing, with us. You know him. It's been a couple years since he's been on the show. We might as well get all caught up. We got all kinds of good stuff to talk about this week, guys. We got information about an upcoming show next episode that you're going to want to know about. It's a good conversation. We're going to be across all the boards live here, so you guys can kind of weigh in and help us kind of create a really, really, really great discussion. More information on that, of course. We have the upcoming 200th episode festivities that we're very, very excited about. Can't wait for that amazing event to go down. Again, we're raising money for Veterans Inc. Details coming up later in the show, but also check the show details in the description if you want your tickets now. It's going to be cutting it pretty close if you want to guarantee that you've got a spot. Remember, this is a game dinner, so we need to pull the ticket sales once they need a head count. And then we've got fantastic Dust Off Fishing-esque just the tip for you and gear of the week that you're not going to want to miss out. Excellent stuff coming up live today, guys, on Jigs and Bigs. We will see you with much more right after this.
This just in, breaking news.
I just looked up on Omnia Fishing's website on my dashboard here, and I have been upgraded to a silver ambassador. I'll drink to that. You know, what does that mean, you ask? I know, everybody's got questions. I just want you to know what that means is I have met at least the minimum requirement to leave some reports for various bodies of water that I fish routinely over at Omnia Fishing. So if you want to check those out and you're in the area, you know where I am, you can take a look and find out what baits have really, really been outstanding for those areas as far as like how I've been using them. Check it out. It's good stuff. Sean, how are you today?
Overloaded from basketball, buddy.
Yeah.
Same as last week. Going to be the same going through February.
You know, I don't know, Sean. If you look around the Jigs and Bigs studio, what's different? What's different today?
Joe's much handsomer today.
Much better looking. Infinitely better looking. I don't know wait a minute, that's not Joe. That's the one and only Brandon Heimericks, the one and only Dust Off Fishing. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, thank you, and I'm sure we're going to get a nice text from Joe real soon.
We are, I'm sure. Joe never disappoints. I'm sure between trips to the toilet, he's going to send us some kind of a message. He's probably watching this on his phone right now, and he's like, biting down on a piece of 2x4. We've all been there.
Just for the record, Joe, I didn't say that. Take your hate out on those guys.
We're not bitter at all. I got a message on Thursday night. They had landed in Mexico and were showing some of the beautiful views that they had and the nice digs where they were staying. And it was 30 degrees and there was a bitter cold wind, and I was just like, fuck off. Like, it's not the right time. But again, I hope they had a great time. I really do. I genuinely do. Glad you guys made it home safe. That's always a good thing. We have one hell of a show, man. We got a lot of stuff that we got to go through. And I think that that I think our jig heads who are in and those that are watching over on Facebook. Yes, I did decide to stream over on Facebook. We had this grand plan, and I forgot Joe's schedule, and I wanted to make sure that we had him in. We're going to be talking about technology and fishing, and I kind of wanted to get a good roundtable going and get a lot of engagement from some of our friends. So yeah, that's what. So I figured I would stream this one over here just to kind of get some questions. So this is what I want to throw out here. When it comes to what's this? We're up on Facebook right now.
That's the stories, man. We got it up on the stories.
Fucking A, man. I love that.
Hell yeah.
I love that. So go ahead, check it out. But there's a reason why I decided I think this would be a good idea, Dust Off, and that's because I want folks to be able to ask you questions that we can kind of go through in our third segment. We don't have a proper guest, although tomorrow I am recording with one hell of a pair of guests that are also in the podcasting game. So stick around for that the following week. But we might as well use this third segment to kind of dive into it'll be a Dust Off Fishing AMA. A little bit of a filter.
I hope they're ready. I hope you guys are ready for honest answers. I may not have been honest last time, but I'm going to be honest this time.
He does not fuck around, my friends. That's
no fucks given today. None.
I love that.
Zero. Welcome to the fold.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome to Jigs and Bigs. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get caught up on our weeks individually, and then we'll talk a little bit more on Dust Off beyond his last week. Sean, why don't you go ahead and go up to bat first? Anything exciting this week?
Well, excitement, yeah, just not in this particular sport on the podcast that we're presenting on. It's been all basketball again. Couple of tough teams that we played for the high school.
Yep.
One game was a blowout, and our center was not feeling well for both games. So one game was a blowout. One game we made a big comeback, did not win. Today, actually, the fifth graders I coached, they pulled a win out, which was nice. And yesterday I had a chance. Actually, I did have a chance. It's a little interesting here.
Yeah.
With us being in Western Massachusetts, the birthplace of basketball.
That's true.
The Hall of Fame Classic was held yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
It was a doubleheader of college games. The first game was Florida Atlantic and St. Bonaventure. Florida Atlantic being 15th in the country, which was nice to see a ranked team in.
Yep.
They beat up St. Bonnie pretty bad in the second half and came away with a win. But the second game was good old UMass. Obviously, UMass had their peak, their glory days in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Had a I think a tournament appearance. Let me think. My kids were being born, so around 2007 or 2008, I believe, in that time frame, and few big wins here and there. But UMass in general has been quiet. And it looks like they've got a little bit of resurgence going on. They hosted West Virginia and came away with a win. It was a really, really physical game, but man, it was nice to see the old UMass uniforms on the court again. I haven't been to a UMass game in several years. There were some alumni there. Marcus Camby was there. We all remember Marcus Camby from back in the day, and he went to the NBA and played. I believe he got drafted by the Raptors, if I'm thinking correctly. Anyways, he walked by in the hallway, and me at 6'4", I am looking straight up at Marcus Camby, and we're in the hallway. Nobody's saying anything, milling around. I'm like, "Hey, Marcus!" It's like, "What up, brother?" I'm like, "All right, cool." He has no idea who I am. It doesn't care. Just random people yell his name. And then during that time I mentioned, 2007, 2008, around there, UMass had a huge win at the Mullen Center against UConn. UConn was second in the nation. I think that win put UMass into the top 25, and that might have been their most recent trip there. And one of those team members actually ended up marrying one of my sister's best friends. And Jeff Vigiano was there, and Jeff knows my family pretty well at this point. So it was nice to see Jeff there with his kids. And finally, I didn't say hi to him, but there was a basketball Hall of Famer in the stands. He was not coaching because there's some side issues going on, I believe, with the coaching job and legal stuff, which is absolutely none of my business. But Hall of Famer college coach Bob Huggins, who is, I don't know, got some things going on with West Virginia right now. You all can look that up. I am not on the inside of that by any means, but Bob Huggins was sitting about 2 rows over from us. So he's a Final Four coach from Cincinnati in the early 90s, and he took West Virginia a few years ago.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, and he was
It's pretty cool.
Right over there. Right over there, across the way. We went. We had a good time. The Mass Mutual Center was rocking, and good to see some UMass basketball with a big win over a big program. So
I love that,
good
dude.
Stuff.
Nice.
That was my week.
Nice. UMass basketball definitely was a big deal when we were much younger.
We were
big deal.
High school.
Yeah, high school. It was crazy. So my week was a little bit nuts. I did. I worked so many jobs this week. My standard schedule of regular events that I do at bars and restaurants all over the place. One of these, I want to say a big shout out to. So it was my Thursday event. We did a little bit of a beer promo at Toasted Owl in Northampton, and it was Wormtown Brewery was the brewery that we were working with. Giving away beer swag, doing tastings. Now, I've never really explained this, but probably my favorite single beer ever, like in that craft beer world, is not an IPA. I like all different styles of beer. This beer is actually a brown ale. Only comes out about this time of year. It's called Blizzard of 78, and it is one of the best tasting beer overall, not just brown ales, just beers in general. I love this beer. It's just fantastic. Delivers every time. And they had 3 different offerings from Wormtown on tap that night. They had Norm, which is a coconut stout. They had the classic Bee Hoppy and IPA, and then this Blizzard of 78. But I got to talking. This is kind of fishing related. I got to talking with the rep from Wormtown, Gabby, who is awesome. Gabby is great. And this ties in a little bit with the 200th episode. I had actually got a notification of a ticket sale that had gone on earlier in the evening, and I was pretty pumped up on that. And some of these folks that are buying tickets are actually not even listeners of the podcast. They're supporters at Trivia. I just started advertising for it because, again, like, we want to do well for Veterans Inc. We want to have a big showing that night, and it is an expensive ticket. So we're trying to push tickets out as soon as possible. And I know it's tough with the holidays, but we're eventually going to have to shut down ticket sales because we're going to have to deliver a head count for the meal. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do any other kind of ticket sales after that. So we are screwed. And yeah, there's no tickets at the door. As much as I wish I could do it, there's nothing we can do. So what we did was this. I was talking with her, and I was talking with some of the trivia regulars about the event coming up on the 13th of January. And she said to me, she's like, if there's anything you need for like your other accounts or anything like that, or, she asked my schedule where I was, and I was like, actually, I do have an event that we could certainly use some support with. And I told her about the 200th show. I said, I do this podcast. I was like, when everything was shut down, I put all my time right into it, and I happened to turn it into something. Like, it's a thing. And we've managed to do this now for 200 weeks in a row, which I can't even believe it's been that long. I've never done anything this much with this much focus in my life. This is ridiculous. So I told her, I said that we're having this event. And as soon as I told her that we were raising money for Veterans Inc., her face kind of like melted. She was like, what? Come to find out. So not only did she offer up a bunch of prizes for the raffles from, Wormtown, but other establishments that she's aligned with. Come to find out, it's a small world. She fits into the Jigs and Bigs verse a little bit. She is family of one of our one of the bait shops when way back when, Sean, when you were going out scouting for the fishing report. One of the bait shops, her family owns one of these bait shops out here, and she's like, holy shit. And I brought up one of the contacts that we had over there. She's like, that's my little sister. I was like, shut the fuck up. Amazing how small the world is. So very, very cool. She immediately was just like, yeah, we need to work together and do some stuff. She's like, I'm going to try to put everything I can for you. This will be awesome. So what I'm getting at is that the raffles at the 200th episode just got that much better. So get your tickets now, folks. jigsandbigs.com. Check the description of this podcast right now, and there is a link in there, and you can go get your tickets and do so before their ticket sales end. Should be. Honestly, it's probably going to be in the next week to week and a half. Then we're going to end up having to pull the ticket sales. So get on it, guys. This is the time. A little bit of a question from Ellie Noel that had come up, and I know this whole time I've been talking that's been sitting there, and I know all of you guys sitting watching this live as we go through are on the edge of your seats wanting to know the answer to this question. Ellie asks, have you each pooped today? Multiple times, Ellie. It's a Sunday. It's a big breakfast kind of day, with 2 pots of coffee. I mean, you know the answer to this question. You know the deal. Sean, how are we? Are we regular? What kind of day is it?
Yes, we're very regular. You mentioned a big breakfast. I forgot to throw this in. My oldest son, I had to bring his skis and bindings and all that shit to a ski store. I know nothing about skiing, so I'm sure these people are taking me for money every time I walk in there to get him ready for ski season.
They definitely
did say, oh yeah, he did say, Dad, let's go grab some breakfast where my youngest son works, who was not working at the time.
Nice. That's awesome, dude.
And now I'm starting to think that at this restaurant, there may be a smidge of Portuguese in the kitchen, because I've already crowed about their chorizo omelet.
Yeah.
You know what I had yesterday? Their special? Rabbit sausage.
Really? There's definitely a little Portuguese in the kitchen, for sure.
This was beyond the best sausage I've ever eaten.
Yeah, and you, my friend, have eaten some sausage in your life.
I have eaten some sausage. I'm a sausage-eating fool, right? I do that shit for fun in my spare time.
Put mustard on that shit.
Put mustard on, I eat the shit. Yeah, rabbit and sausage, absolutely phenomenal. Good stuff.
Now, before we get to Brandon's bowel movements, I'll wrap up my week because I did manage to go out and fish this week. I fished on Saturday. I really should have taken advantage of that. Well, no, on Friday, I actually had 2 events going, so I wasn't able to get out on Friday at all. I had an event out in the Boston area. Great company. I've done their corporate party before. This is at one of these like party facilities, but it's got like game rooms and like nightclub rooms and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was awesome. They had a blast. We had such a good time. And then I sat in the worst traffic on the Mass Pike trying to make my Friday night residency, and I made it with no issue. But we were in the small bar over there, and oh my God, what a game. There were a lot of laughs to be had. Shout out to 4 C's and Superwoman, because they were sitting right next to this one table that had no idea what they were doing. They named their team quiz, and then when they would buzz in and I'd call on them, they would look around like they had no idea what was happening. They're like,
it should be Joyce. Does it say it's Joyce?
And I'm like, no, it says quiz, because
that's what you typed in there.
So that was fun. Friday wrapped up, and I got home, and as Friday was going on, I was getting messages from the one and only, the Polish Hammer, Paul. Well, speaking of sausage, he was basically just giving me some info about what he was looking to do fishing-wise on Saturday. He wanted to keep it local and kind of pond hop. I was debating going back out toward Wachusett. I think I might do that this week. I might take an early day after I drop off Delaney and just hit the road and go. Just go and do my thing. But we shall see. So we decided we just pond hop around here. We fished 3 spots, I think 3 spots together, skunked at all of them. We said, fuck it, let's go have lunch. That's where the PB was made at that lunch. We went to 7 B's in Westfield, which if you're in Western Massachusetts, God, go to 7 B's. Go to 7 B's. Every time you end a meal there, they give you a little baggie of homemade chocolate chip cookies, which are out of this world. Now, I remember there was a time where in their fryer, they used to use beef fat, which was kind of, that's not common around here, but it made the difference. It was so good. They make some of their own hot sauces. Great stuff. We had a great meal. I went to one other spot, Congamon Jr., did a short little bank sesh there, donate a bunch of lures that I broke off on. A lot of those were blade baits. It just happens. It sucks. I got to buy so many blade baits. And went without even so much as a tap on anywhere, any of these spots. We fished a lot of the Connecticut River. The river is up crazy high, and it is the current is rushing. It is nuts. So we had this one rocky area where we were trying to just drag something heavy across there, and not a damn thing, nothing going on. So we said, screw it, we're going to call it a day. Went out and grabbed lunch. I came home that night. That was it. And here we are making this amazing show. So now, Brandon, have you done any fishing this week? Did you get out and do anything or do anything exciting content-wise?
I thought we were going to talk about my poops.
We can start there if you want. If you want
to start from the back and work backwards, we can.
Truthfully, I don't know why she's asking about my bowel movements, but I am completely regular. Thank you very much for the question. Have
you ever heard Elise on the show? This is common for her.
I have.
Yeah. She's a sweetheart.
That's the first question. Starts me out. Starts the mood. It gets the mood going.
Yeah. She's special. A national treasure.
So I had a pretty mundane week until Friday. We had our office Christmas party.
Oh, nice.
And we did a white elephant gift, and I walked away with a bottle of Jefferson's from that. So that was
not bad.
That was a win. I didn't get like the Jack Daniel or the Jim Beam Fire or whatever it is that everybody else got. So that was good. And then, but I ended up taking an Irish car bomb, and I had a double pour of Buffalo Trace at like noon, which was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Then I took a nap. Then I tried to work out, and then I basically spent the rest of the night trying not to throw up from the previous day's activities. So, lesson learned on that one. And then Saturday I got up and I was like, you know what? Today's going to set up great for fishing. It's cloudy. Winds are out of the west. Mild temperatures, like 45 here is pretty mild, bad. So I'm thinking fish are going to be chewing a jerkbait all day long. Mm-hmm. I ended up going to a new spot, which is a little notorious for being tough, and it whooped my ass, man. I got one fish in like 4 hours on a jerkbait, so hurt my ego a little bit. Content was slim, far between, all that. I always tell people, though, you don't need to catch fish to make content. That's not how it works.
It's true.
I think a lot of people kind of go, well, I haven't fished for 2 months, so I haven't been able to make content. Well, like, okay, what did you do the previous 3 years or 4 years? Did you take any videos then?
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I could go fishing or I could not go fishing for a year, and I would have more than enough content to sustain myself for the next year. Because truthfully, if you're going to use content, like the only thing I really try to align is the clothing or the temperature with the content time of year. So think of it like this. Like if I don't have anything right now, I'll just look at what I had in December of last year. And if I have something I haven't pushed out, then I'll just push it out.
There you go.
This year.
Yeah. Because that seasonally it matches up. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, yeah. And a lot of people, like another thing that I think people maybe make a mistake with is they say like, and I'm not, listen, I think if you catch the fish, if it's your fish, you can put it on your page whenever you want. It doesn't have to be something you caught yesterday or recently.
I'm with you there.
But I think a lot of people will post like summer pictures and be like, throwback to when it was warmer. Do you wish it was warm? Mm-hmm. I don't really think that those types of posts do particularly well, because I think people are like, why are you reminding me of things that I wish were happening now that aren't?
Yeah.
But so that's why I try to post stuff that's seasonally appropriate for like right now. So I usually don't post any like warm weather stuff when it's cold.
Yep.
Vice versa.
No, that's smart. I think that's smart. And that's the thing. Like I understand the thinking of what they're doing. Like, oh, don't you wish it was warmer? But like, how many people are having that conversation? Like, and you know what I mean? That's such a basic level way to engage someone who's viewing your stuff that like really they probably already answered that question. Like think a little bit deeper. I'm definitely one for being guilty of like taking something that's a topic and saying, well, this is what I think. What do you think? But I, like, I mean, everybody, I guess, gets that one post a year where they're just like, fuck, I hate this cold weather. And then I see folks.
There's a way to do that. Yeah. I mean, you could, like, there was a post I did that was like 75 years. That's how long you have when there's 75 winters, 75 summers.
I remember that.
Springs.
Yep.
So, like, you can throw in your spring, and summer stuff and stuff like that to incorporate it. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. Now, what's changed for you in the last 2 years that we've had you on? Like, think back to like when we first had you on the show, and like, what was the journey like from there to now?
Oh, I've learned so much. Yep. I mean, not just on the water, but in business and social media. I tell a lot of people like, and there's nothing wrong with this, but Dust Off Fishing is a LLC. We pay taxes. Yep. It's a business. I'm constantly working on this page as something that maybe I can do when I'm out of the military, like Sean is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've learned so much just about myself, about sponsorships, about being on podcasts, about goals and the industry and where the industry is now versus where it was when I started, and just the complete kind of 180 that it's done. Like, I think fishing is down right now. And I think it's down not just because I think every winter it goes down, but I think, we're kind of popping that COVID bubble, just like we popped that housing bubble. And what was that, like 2007, 2008, whatever year that was, where the housing market crashed. You had this big buildup, then you had oversaturation of the market. And basically you can't sustain that level of demand. And then you have all this excess inventory that kind of is hanging out. And now they're just trying to figure out what to do with all that stuff.
Yep.
All their money's tied up in. And so as a creator, there's less money for us.
Oh, yeah.
For us to, sustain our businesses.
Yeah. Do you find that's where things tend to get more competitive in the like, I guess, in the job market when it comes to creators, because now you've got people that are either looking to diversify to be able to, push more product, or they're more trying to, and I hate it when people choose the path of like, I'm going to try and undercut this person. You know what I mean? Do you see a lot of that happening?
I think everybody, I've heard this before. I think a lot of people want to get into this whole influencer creator thing. And what ends up happening is you'll find somebody that will do whatever you're willing to do for cheaper.
That's exactly it. So, in every industry, that's the case.
So one of the things I'm kind of realizing or figuring out, maybe a little late, is that businesses are being more selective about who they're targeting and why they're targeting them. So engagement is king right now. They want to get the most bang for their buck. And the only way that they can do that is to pick people that have an audience that their product resonates with. And then, basically the creator has to be believable, realistic,
that makes
genuine.
Sense. Yeah, authenticity. That's a really good point. I've heard that from so many creators that I've spoken to in the past, because you can't fake that. Like, people try. I think they try, but I think it's pretty easy to detect. You know what I mean?
Well, I think, I absolutely 100% agree with you. And then I also kind of, I hate to say it like this, but you kind of figure out who your friends are when you do this for 3 years. We have, there's absolutely like a way to go about doing things.
Yep.
And it kind of boils down to, I guess one thing I've learned the most is just how to be patient.
Yeah. That's key. You got to ride out the bad times, when it's a little bit rocky and people are freaking out. Cause like we see this, in a lot of different facets of industry, like, the cannabis industry around here. I remember when legal cannabis was a big deal, and there was like police at every single parking lot to direct the traffic and crowd control and all this other stuff. And like today, I went to my local dispensary and I was able to park right in front of the front door, walk right in, walk right out. And it's just, they're still making tons of money. But now the market's kind of changed. You know what I mean? And the crowds aren't going to one location because that's all there is. And it gets, you see things diversify. So it's kind of nuts. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've sat in a lot of meetings recently with businesses where everybody is downsizing and everybody is trying to renegotiate their, business dealings with not just content creators, but professional fishermen, like people that, like are on tours and stuff. Like, a lot of guys I think are probably struggling to get sponsors when it wasn't so hard a year or two ago.
We had, a few weeks ago, we did a react episode to a video that Ben Milliken had put out regarding like, this is what these pro anglers should really be angry about, is the corporatization of what's happening in the industry. And our take on it for the most part was like, this is just, again, this is one of those examples where like the fishing world is a few years behind everything else, which is kind of, I look at it as a good thing, because you can kind of know like what other types of hurdles are kind of coming, because other industries have gone through it. And you can hopefully learn from anybody else's mistakes or something like that. But so we had this conversation, and one of the things that was brought up in this video specifically was this focus on like what was happening between the years of like 2018 through that COVID bubble, and as we came out of like 2022 into 2023, what's happening. And I mean, so many folks had to kind of deal with this, but this is, I feel like a lot of it, you work with a lot of different companies. I'm not sure how many of those are O&O. Have you seen it from both sides?
Yeah, I mean, I have. Truthfully, I feel like if it's happened, I think I've seen most of it.
Yeah.
That we're at 3.5 years. I think when I was on your podcast the first time, I had like 8,000 followers.
Yeah.
So, that was 47,000 followers ago. But I've kind of realized is there's a sweet spot about how many people you want to work with.
Yeah.
Before it's just, it's unattainable. You're just unable to keep up with the demand of the content creation. And then you're not giving people what they, I think they expect. And I've been guilty of that. I feel bad about that sometimes.
Yeah.
But then I kind of think about, I don't know how much a company would pay to get 21,000. Let's just say like a small, like a good reel, but not like a crazy good reel. 21,000 views, plays. How much would a company pay to have 21,000 people see their T-shirt or hat or whatever? Okay, so I'm willing to guess that they would be willing to spend more than the cost of them making a shirt and sending it to me in the mail.
Exactly.
So I don't really feel terribly bad about, I think kind of what you just learned is like, you just basically people kind of set themselves up for what they get based off of how much they're willing to pay for your time. And whether that's in product or money or commission, either way, it's a stacking order. It's a rack and stack, and you just do your best, and then you learn your lesson, and then you either keep that company or you don't.
That's exactly it. Like, you can only just kind of ride it out. It's so funny too, man. Like, I think the key word is value. Like, how much do they value what you're putting in for effort, and how much, are they really looking at like the big picture? We recently, I say we as like the show, we have a content creator that we're really close to that has really this year kind of like taught me a lot. And they had kind of given me some insight as to some of the negotiation process for some of these things with a really, really big company that they were bringing on. And it was really, really interesting how much, like, this one creator specifically, it was a stick to your guns type situation. Like, what they were asking for was way, way too much than they were comfortable doing this early in the gate, and to the point where it kind of became like a part-time job, and it would have been a challenge to then create content for any other brands or anything like that. Like, it really was they kind of pigeonholed them a little bit. And it ended up working out the best because they stuck to their guns, and I think that goes a really long way. I had a situation on Friday. I got a lead for an event as it was in between. Keep this in mind. As I was in between two paying events. I was on the road and I got a message from a local company that was having a Christmas party, and
they neglected to hire any entertainment.
Like they just forgot. The party was on Saturday. So I have a general policy, and I think that, you got to kind of know your value. So I know what the value was. I gave them a number, and the woman on the phone actually said,
"Oh, we thought maybe you'd do it for the exposure."
And I'm like, I just did 7 jobs this week.
I don't need your exposure.
I have too much work, not enough hands. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, and I've aligned with companies because I thought, okay, I could network with their other pro staff, and I would be able to fish with these guys. Or I've had people tell me, we'll get you to fish with pros, or we'll give you exposure, or we'll share your stuff on our page, and it's like every time that I agree to do that in the past, it's never, ever, ever paid off.
Never
in my favor whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn because you can only learn it by experiencing it. It sucks, Well,
how many times I don't know, you got a reaction tackle hat on. Okay, let's say you work with reaction tackle, you post something about them and they put you on their page. How many times have you gone on like Abu Garcia's page and they've got somebody on there that they're showing off and you're like, oh, I need to follow that guy. And then I need to buy all that guy's merch. And then I need to use all that guy's products with his code. No, you never do that. Yeah. You just go, okay, that's a cool new bait Abu Garcia or a cool new reel that Abu Garcia came out with, and you move on with your life.
Oh, yeah.
I've never ever felt like I've gotten any tangible benefit from like doing this show with you. I mean, maybe somebody watches it. Maybe he's like, I like that guy's style. I want to work with him. I'll call him up. I'll email him, whatever.
I don't know, man. You're one of our most popular interviews people have played.
Well, this one's going to get me in the tank then because I'm way too honest.
It's like Becca and you. You're one of the most popular episodes we've ever had.
Everybody on Instagram wants to say, I don't care about social media. I don't care about numbers. I don't care about popularity, whatever. But then they're in the back of the scenes going, hey, what can I do to this? Or, hey, what can I do to that? And it's like, make up your mind. The most questions I get are not about, and I get it. I'm not Bill Dance or Kevin Van Dam or any of these. I like my job is not to teach people how to fish. My job is to create content. I get it.
Yeah.
But that is by far the most popular questions I get are related to how to successfully navigate social media.
Yeah, I can definitely see where people, because they see the growth and they're just like, holy shit. You did mention like working with some companies thinking that like you'd be able to hook up and fish with some folks. Who have you been fishing with lately? Because you've been kind of tapping into like the big boat world on top of the kayak world. Like you're sort of kind of going all over the place. Walk us through that journey a little bit.
I'm just trying to learn as much as I can, as fast as I can. If I tell people all the time, I started fishing, really fishing 3 years ago, and they can't believe it. But I had a guy who reached out to me. He's like, hey, do you want to fish the team tournament trail and the Joe Bass, which is kind of it's like around 150 boats per tournament type of deal on Truman Lake. And I sucked at fishing that lake, just terrible. So I signed up and I was like, I'll do it. And we did not do well, but I learned a lot about fishing that lake. It was his boat. I learned a ton from him. And then another guy I fish with is Luke Ruth. He does quite a few local tournaments here. He's got a pretty big social media following.
Yep.
And he and I are kind of like opposites. Like we're completely different people. But we mesh really well, and I learn a lot from him.
That's awesome.
So I really enjoy fishing with him. Ryan Reed, the guy I fished with forever, moved to Texas and South Carolina and all these other places, and I never, ever really got a chance to fish with him. So I've been fishing with just kind of some of the other local kayak guys. But, I think the key point here is, Bobby, is just never get super comfortable or stuck in like your little world. Like Well, otherwise you're never gonna grow and advance.
Yeah. And it's so easy for that little world to just get smaller and smaller and smaller before you realize like it's gone. You know what I mean? It really is. Like, you can't get too comfortable ever. Always got to grow. Always got to try to innovate, reinvent something, like bring something new to the table. That's awesome. That's wild, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah, I went to Texas for a tournament at Lake of the Pines, thinking I was going to go down there and catch a PB, and I fished Lake of the Pines and Lake Fork, and I spent 3 days in Texas, and I caught one fish at Lake Fork that was 14 inches, and I caught one fish at Lake of the Pines that was 16 inches.
Holy shit.
In 3 days.
Wow. I think especially like for folks that fish primarily up north, like where we are, like they think, in Texas, you're like, oh yeah, you must catch 17s and 18s just like going through them like nothing, There's small fish down there, man. And you can have really, really shitty days, That sucks, dude. I'm sorry to hear that. Although
I heard somebody say one time that you could throw a Subway sandwich in a mud puddle and catch a 20-inch bass. Not true.
Yeah, I believe that. I had a similar experience when I went to Chick. We were out there with Caleb Bell, and Caleb knows his shit, and he was putting us in. It was just primarily conditions. Like, we'd go out to some of these spots, and it would just be, this water looked like yoo-hoo. Like, it was ridiculous. And like, there was a slight like difference in the two. You could see these mud lines, and it was just looking for the clearest water we could. They would eat if we would literally smack them in the face with a bait, But it was just, and the size of fish, we caught numbers. I know Paul had an amazing day for numbers. I had an all right day. I caught some fish. Caleb caught some really good fish. I caught some species I've never caught before, like a white bass. Never caught a white bass. Mm-hmm. That's cool, Mm-hmm. But those are the days, sometimes you have those days, and you got to zoom out,
Zoom out.
Look at the overall experience a bit and kind of figure out what value you got out of it. And I think that that's the whole thing. Like, we had a lackluster time, but I think the content from that trip was out of this world. I could have done without losing the Lockwood hat, Paul. I'm still not over that. That's at the bottom of the Chick.
Well, I guess if I'd looked at it from a glass half full perspective, I hardly ever, if at all, fish a speedworm or swim a speedworm. So I learned how to do that. And truthfully, like, a lot of the people that caught their fish caught them on a chatterbait that they fished without a trailer. And, and I learned a lot about chatterbait fishing while I was there, not necessarily during the tournament, but just talking to people afterwards. And, sometimes something's going to work, but you just you doubt yourself and you don't stick with it. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I learned in those tournaments was like, you really have to understand, Luke Ruth has taught me that a lot. Yep. It's like, if you go out there and you, like yesterday, I was like, I know a jerkbait's going to work. I'm just fishing with the wrong color or the wrong size or the wrong cadence or the wrong depth. And so, unfortunately, I didn't bring my whole jerkbait box with me, so I didn't have the arsenal I needed. But I ended up switching a couple times and catching a fish. It just took, a while. So
freaking nuts. We got Ryan Bogley chimes in right here. The Butcher says Chatterbait won me Lunker 3 times this year, all at different times of the year, all at 3 different presentations. I mean, I think that's a good example of where I think confidence plays in a role. I've heard it recently. I think it was when I was on Binya's live stream. He had mentioned that he's like, I firmly believe that your confidence, it almost travels down the line, and your ability to work that bait just the right way is, works. Now, I don't think it's a magical force that travels down the fishing line or anything like that. But I do think that if your mind is right with a presentation, that there's something about that translates well into the muscle memory or whatever the recipe is to create that presentation to work just that right way. Dark Horse Tackle chimes in, says, "What's up, boys? How you boys doing?" Saw that Dark Horse got their tickets for the 200th episode. It's going to be freaking unbelievable. So here's what I want our viewers that are on Facebook and on on YouTube to do. Our jig heads and everybody, if you have questions for Brandon, go ahead and throw them in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight them all. And in our third segment, we'll touch on some of those. So if you've got questions for Dust Off, go ahead and label them. Before we wrap this segment up, Brandon, what are like you've been working with a bunch of companies, and I want to know, what are your favorite ones that you've worked with, or that you've worked with the longest and it's been like a really good relationship?
I'm wearing, I worked with Dark Horse Tackle a little bit when I first started, but I signed on with Monster Bass, and they have a fishing subscription box. So it's kind of a conflict of interest, but Monster Bass is definitely Rick Patry, and I don't know Raffy's last name, but he's kind of the pro staff manager. Those guys have been just super, super awesome to work with. They're Johnny on the spot with whatever you need.
That's awesome.
I've never, ever had an issue. Like I was working with Raffy the other day, and they sent me a lunker stick, which is their line of fishing rods.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I actually fell on one while I was on the bass boat, because apparently I'm a klutz and I can't stand on a bass boat correctly, and sat on it. And I was talking to Raffy about it. He's like, yeah, let me send you another, man. Just whatever you needed, just send it to me. So, I definitely really appreciate my relationship with Monster Bass. Eco Fishing Shop is another one I've worked with for a long time. I don't know if what we're doing next year. The contract ends on December 31st, and I haven't heard whether their pro staff situation is going to stay the same. I have worked with 2 bait companies. I liked both of them. Truthfully, it just, you kind of learn throughout time. Like I worked with Motion for a year, and then I worked with Crocagator this last year. They both have their advantages. I like both of those companies quite a bit. And I mean, those are kind of the main ones. I worked with Hookset Hoodlums, like you said, one of my first year, I worked with those guys quite a bit, and I still wear their stuff and tag when I can. But like you and I talked about, Grunt Style is another company I work with. Grunt Style, it's kind of funny. Grunt Style got mad at me because I tagged them in a post where I won a tournament where I was wearing the jersey with their stuff on it. And they're like, just tag us on, things that you do Grunt Style stuff with. And I was like, okay, so you don't care about fishing.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah. So, you just learn, but truthfully, like the companies I've been happiest with, Martin's Customs Baits, which I think Ryan might work with as well.
Yep.
Steve Martins is a really, really great guy.
We've had Steve on the show when the Knee Knocker came out.
Yes. Awesome spinner baits. Yep. Awesome guy. Awesome jigs. Great dude. Just cannot say enough nice things about him. Rod Protec is another company that a lot of people don't know about. They're my rod sleeve company. It's really hard. I don't know how many people work with, like, Evolve is a great rod sleeve. Rod Protec is a good rod sleeve. But the guy at Rod Protec is kind of interesting. I was down in Disney or something with my family, and he reaches out to me. He's like, hey, can I take you to lunch? So we went to lunch. He bought lunch, we kind of established a personal relationship, and then he's slowly like adapted his product.
That's awesome.
To where it's like he has this crazy awesome product where basically I can put all my rods in I can wrap them all together, and I never have lures touching each other because they have a integrated lure wrap and reel cover in the rod sleeve.
Oh,
so it completely covers the whole thing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'll tell you, the lure wrap's a big deal.
Yeah, those are the companies I really, really like. I probably missed somebody, and somebody's gonna be mad, but it's just kind of how it works.
That's what I'm saying. Off the top of your head, that's how it works. We got Mark Serrano. Speaking of really good companies, Mark Serrano chimes in. He says, Martin's Custom Baits is the best. And if Mark's name has come up on the show before. Mark is the owner of Andy's Heat Your Meat, which is the seasoning product. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, so Mark, just so you know, I made homemade hamburger helper last night, and I put your Heat Your Meat in as one of my additive spices. I love it. but like it's got sneaky heat. So like you'll just be sitting there, you'll be about like 4 or 5 bites in, all of a sudden you'll just have like sweat dripping down your face. It's like it's like an amazing sweat.
Oh yeah.
So
I had a really good conversation with Mark after my wife had ordered. She wanted to try like a pizza shop in town that we hadn't ordered from before. And it was just hot garbage. And I was adding Heat Your Meat, both in the mild and the regular variety. And this went down this crazy rabbit hole, sharing recipes for a smoked like cream cheese dip that Mark gave me a recipe for, which I have to freaking make because it just sounds freaking out of this world. So unbelievable. But I didn't realize that the mild and the regular are not just like a less spicy version. It's a totally different pepper. It's jalapeno. Look, we got a bunch of people chiming in on this. This is great. A butcher needs to try this, he says. Fuck yeah.
I don't give Mark enough like props on social media for that Heat Your Meat stuff, but he's always been a supporter of Dust Off Fishing, and I appreciate him very much. So thank you, Mark.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I love it. Why don't we go ahead? We're gonna do something. We're gonna actually take a quick break. We're gonna come back with Just the Tip, Gear of the Week, and FTG, all that stuff. We got something we got to get to right beforehand. We will see you guys in just a bit. We got much more good stuff coming up. More with Dust Off, more from the Jigs and Bigs crew, more from the Jig Heads. Keep your questions coming in, guys, because in segment 3, we're going to get a little Ask Me Anything with Dust Off Fishing. We'll see you guys in a bit. Don't go too far. Much more coming up after this. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form podcast content. We need to thank Dark Horse Tackle, Omnia Fishing, A-Bay Lure, The Bay House, and The Ship Motel. We can't forget about Three Bells Outfitters, Torres Sunglasses, and of course, Reaction Tackle. Be sure to check the description of this podcast for any associated affiliate links or promo codes they've generously provided our listening audience. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for Just the Tip or Bait of the Week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast. Alrighty, guys, before we get into this next segment here, there's something a little bit serious and quite frankly, a little sad that we need to talk about. Sean, go ahead. You've got the majority of these details.
Yeah, we talked a little bit this week. Unfortunately, in our community up here in Massachusetts, there was a passing of an angler that locally is a talented angler and a great guy, Scott Rhodes. We've mentioned his name, I'm sure, a couple times on the show in the past few years, both in the tournament scene in Massachusetts and for the Jigs and Bigs tournament series. Scott participated in both over the past few years, and unfortunately, he passed last week, leaving behind his wife and 3 young children. We just wanted to give our condolences to the family during this time. I mean, it's always hard to lose someone, but it's incredibly hard to lose them around the holidays. Makes it just a little bit worse.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to say our piece, that Scott will be remembered. He was a great guy, and we're sorry this happened.
With that said, I only had, Sean, you've fished with Scott a number of times.
Yep.
I had one instance with Scott. Two. There was one where he had won some prizes from Jigs and Bigs. I've met him before. But the one initial instance was when I lost to Scott in that bracket tournament, and Scott was playfully talking some smack during that tournament, and I had that one instance with Scott. I will remember. He was definitely a fun-loving kind of guy with a good sense of humor, and we want to send our condolences out to his entire family. And with that, we're going to move on to the next segment of our show.
Bobby, Sean, and Who the Fuck is Joe Brown now have a special presentation for us all. It's time for Just the Tip.
Well, in this week's Just the Tip, I thought a little bit in advance, just so you guys are aware that are watching this. Lots of times, right before we go live, we have a living outline that we'll go through for the show. And myself and Joe and Sean can make edits to it or change things up. And it's where I kind of jot a lot of the notes for things I want to talk about here. And I said, I'm going to get in front of this. And instead of having the conversation once everybody's in the StreamYard waiting room, I'm gonna ask our guest Brandon if he wants to jump in and submit some ideas for Just the Tip and Gear of the Week, and he said I got it. So, Brandon, I'm gonna balls in your court, my friend. You go ahead and run with this Just the Tip segment.
Well, I kind of gave away some of these in the break, but in the last episode, or whatever segment episode, you know what I mean. But I think if anybody gets on my page and sees what I'm catching fish on right now, obviously the jerkbait is the king. Oh, yeah. I did a live the other night with Luke Ruth, and the 3 rods we say we're going to put in the boat for January is a jig rod, a jerkbait rod, and an A-rig rod. And truthfully, I'll be honest, I take 4 jerkbait rods each trip because... Well, one, I'm lazy and I don't want to have to change my lures multiple times. And that's kind of alludes to the tip part of this is that generally speaking, you're going to know that a certain lure is going to work before you go out there. At least I will. This time of year, generally the water temperatures are in the 40s. And so jerkbait's a really good choice for that. And so generally speaking, I like to pick out the colors I'm going to use based off of the sky conditions. So when I'm looking at a cloudy day, I like to start off with like a matte color. Specifically, I have 2 favorites, matte shad, which is a megabass jerkbait. And then there's a jerkbait that Berkeley makes called a Stunna, and it's and the color is called Stone Cold. So those are the 2 cloudy day jerkbaits that I think work really good for cloudy days. And then if I'm looking at super clear water and I'm looking at a sunny day, a lot of times people like to throw flash.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't generally throw a lot of flash. What I like to throw is a more natural see-through color. So I'll throw 2 colors that I really like. One is MB Gizzard, which is a very natural megabass color. And then OB Stained Reaction. OB just stands for orange bottom when you're fishing megabass. Stained Reaction is a color. And then Berkeley has a version of that called Hanky Panky. I actually caught my PB jerkbait fish on a Hanky Panky on Table Rock Lake throwing that jerkbait. And generally speaking, what I like to target when I'm looking at areas is I like to find someplace that has basically a flat off either a deep cliff or a bluff wall or a flat next to a point. Generally speaking, the wind will push the bait into the flat, and then the fish will feed on that bait And that point is kind of an area where they transition from deep water to shallow water and then go back out to deep water. They're specifically apt to do that in colder weather and warmer weather. Obviously, you guys know that people like to fish offshore in the winter and the summer, but a lot of times what those fish will do is they'll come up, they'll feed, and they'll go back down into those deeper areas. So those are my tips, other than the fact that if you think a jerkbait is going to work and none of that stuff is working for you that I just talked about, experiment with 4 things. First, experiment with depth. So you can get a 110 +1 or a 110 +2. They make those in other brands as well. Experiment with size. You can go down to a 90 size. You can go up. I think Gancraft makes like a 127, which is a bigger size. So you can experiment up or down on the size. You can also experiment with weight. So a lot of times people will take like lead wire and tie it around a hook, and that'll get the bait to go deeper. And then the last thing you can experiment with is the type of jerkbait. So you have floating, you have suspending, and you have sinking jerkbaits. So, well, I'm going to give you 5. And then the last thing is cadence or retrieve. So generally speaking, the colder the water, the longer you want the pause on the jerk. So everybody says jerk, jerk, pause. And then how long you wait between those jerks, I think is based off of water temperature. So if you're not catching fish, extend the length of that pause each jerk. And then if you get bit, like I did yesterday, or was it? Yeah, yesterday, I got bit on a 5-second pause. So after that, I quit everything else and I used that same jerk bait and I just used that cadence and it seemed to work out pretty good for me. That's my tip.
Nice. I like it.
Subscribe to Dust Off Fishing for more fishing tips or stupid me.
There you go. Now I told you that this was coming. I want to know what your top 3 list of different models of jerkbait that you like to go to. And let's go. Let's do it this way. We'll do top 3 models and they can be floating, suspending, sinking. It doesn't matter. Like whatever they are.
There's really, I think, the 3 best jerkbaits in the world is you start with the original, which is Megabass's Vision 110. I think Berkeley makes a really, really good alternative, and Berkeley's jerkbait's like $11.99, I think, or $14.99, and I think Megabass's is like $24.99. So you can save yourself $10. One of the things I really like about Berkeley's is they come with Fusion size 6 hooks.
Oh yeah. And those are good hooks.
I think if I were going to give any kind of like criticism to Megabass, it would be the hooks, and not that they're not sharp, because they're super stupid sharp, but they're a little flimsy. I don't know if Sean would agree with that, but they're just a little. They pull out pretty easy, so you have to have a very forgiving action on your rod to make sure that those hooks don't pull out of like a larger fish. Yeah, especially if you don't have a good hookup. So a lot of times what people, a guy like Ilyakin or myself will do is we'll change those out with a G finesse hook. And they weigh the exact same. So you can change those out if you don't like their hooks to make them a little more sturdy. And then actually Jackal makes a really good jerk bait called a re-range.
I've heard of that.
And I would say those are like the 3 like MVP ones, and then alternatives you can go with the Provokes, and actually 13 Fishing makes a pretty good little jerkbait too. So
nice. That's awesome. One of those is going to be in my top list too. Sean, what about you? What's your go-to, your top 3
for jerkbaits?
Yep.
Man, I use Lucky Strikes a lot. I have a lot of Lucky Strikes.
Yeah.
I got a lot of them on sale. And then I would have to check, believe it or not, I don't actually know. It's whatever body that Chris uses from eBay. Most of my work is done with those. But I do have a lot of Lucky Strikes. He might be using a Megabass or something close to it. Yeah. Because it looks like it, but it might not. It might be.
When you're saying Lucky Strike,
knockoff body.
You're talking Lucky Craft, right?
Lucky Craft. Yeah, I'm not Lucky Strikes.
Lucky Strikes. I was like, oh, nice. You're throwing non-filters down there. Oh, good for you, man.
We went back to Band of Brothers, and we're all smoking Lucky Strikes.
I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I apologize. We're gonna do some Lucky Strikes. We're good with it. We're gonna smoke some butts, and then we're gonna fish. Yeah, Lucky Craft. Thank you. Really, that's about it. I do have a couple Berkeley ones that I found are particular to the upper Midwest.
Yep.
And I just don't have any luck here, but I'll throw those Berkeley. I'll throw the Berkeley ones, the newer ones.
Yep. The Stunner.
Let me think of the model. No, I can't remember the model name, but yeah, I keep those. I only use them every few years when I go to Minnesota. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Minnesota baits. Fair. Mine are pretty varied. I really like the Provoke 110 or the 106, the 106X. I really like the Provoke a lot. It's a slow sinker. I caught my PB on one. I just think that the variety of colors, and I love that it just stops on a dime. It's great. It performs really, really well. I like a Husky jerk. A good old Husky jerk, not the larger size one, more of like in like the 90 size for the most part, but I like a Husky jerk. And the third one, I actually, for the third one, it's another Rapala. It's Ripstop. It's one of my favorites as far as they really just rip and stop. And Paul, the Jabberhammer, says Bobby would like anything Husky. No, Bobby is everything Husky. That's what Bobby is. Bobby is everything Husky. I like this though. Metal Jones says we may have to commission the Lucky Strike jerkbait. There was already a close facsimile produced. Did that ever happen, Sean? With the AJ?
No,
it hasn't yet. Because it's been burning to get out.
We should stop talking about this right now.
Yeah, no. I know. Okay. I'm not going to give anything away, but I kind of.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Where there is exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Dust off, quitting your nails. They have poop in them. Oh, ironically, that ties in.
Poop nails.
That ties into an earlier question.
I think it means quit eating, but we'll just go with quitting. Whatever.
Quitting your nails.
Pick up Lucky Strikes instead. You'll be fine.
I love it, man. I got a trip coming up.
Paul's got a point.
I got a trip coming up with the Jabberhammer early 2024. So that should be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good time. Man, good stuff, guys. Let's go ahead. This one's different. I thought I had an FTG that was going to be a good one for this week, but shit happened.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Like I said, around here at the Jigs and Bigs office, it's been pretty tame. And I was looking to throw Paul into the FTG category after our last outing. But man, Sean had something that was way better. Why don't you chime in, Sean, and go for it?
Hey, I got something outdoors related for the FTG, but not really fishing. And I'm going to go over this briefly because this gets pretty shitty. So I'm going to read the headline, and I'm not going to read names because I don't know who these guys are, and I don't want to have this opinion on them because this sounds some crazy shit. 2 men who allegedly killed approximately 3,600 birds, including bald and golden eagles, face years in prison and fines up to $250,000 after being indicted by a federal grand jury in Montana. So shit. I don't know what was going on there, but it was for the black market. I don't know what the bird pieces were being used for. I am not going to name the 2 fine folks who did this, but man, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it is fucked up.
Yeah. Do we need to go further on this? Like this article, when I'm reading this is scary enough. Like we talk shit about these guys, who knows when they're getting out of jail, and I don't want them on my doorstep.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you're right. Because exactly. It does sound like it was black market related. Again, like just they're pieces of shit. I don't think that they care that they're pieces of shit, but we don't have to go and throw their name out there. If someone wants to go and read the article that's been published, maybe I'll link it in the description. You guys can go and find out there. But that's shitty. And yeah, I mean, at least it's in the world of the outdoors. At least. Because my FTG sucks. Involved Outback Steakhouse, and that was pretty much it.
And we've seen the we've talked about similar instances of birds of prey being killed for one reason or another, and this one seems even more. This is probably the most extreme example we've seen.
Yeah. By far. Yeah, it's shitty. Man, that's a mess. Well, that was quick and easy. A couple of degenerates are being, manhandled by the law, for fucking around. They fucked around.
They found out.
They did.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into it.
Okay, gearheads, it's time to talk tools. Jigs and Bigs Gear of the Week.
So this week, it kind of works out really good because Dustoff on his story just today had put a series of products on his story that he's kind of really been loving lately. And one of these items was an item that Sean is from a company that Sean has recently discovered, and I've been curious about for a while. And after what I've been seeing, I think I might experiment a little bit and see what they have to offer. So Dustoff, why don't you go ahead and share what it was that you shared on your story, that product, and we'll kind of dive in around the entire brand.
All right, so I don't want to be always seen as like a product pusher that like gives like only the fine and rosy details of products, but I have been using Buzbe boxes for I'd say about 18 months or so. Modern Outdoor Tackle is a company that works or that is in my local area, and they're a Buzbe dealer, and so they have this box called a Colony. And basically what it is it's not a unique idea. A lot of companies have this like idea where you can have like small little compartments that you can put stuff in. You can put terminal tackle in it. You can put lures in it. You can put a myriad of things, and they come with these little like capture type. I'm going to show you guys on the video here, but that's basically what the box looks like there.
Yeah. So it's modular, and that's cool.
Yeah. You can take these little pieces out and put like more of these like smaller ones in, or you can mix and match them, or you can put all the same ones in or whatever. So It's a really good box for me. That's kind of what I put my like I'll just tell you guys in my tackle right now, like every day I go out with a jerkbait box, a jig box, a soft plastics box, a terminal tackle box. And then the Buzbe box is like my anything else box. So it's going to have flat-sided cranks. It's going to have spinner baits. It's going to have a mag draft. It's going to have underspins, whatever. Yep. That's what I use that Buzbe box for primarily. And it's worked great for me for years, but I have had people, like even when I post on my stories, I get a lot of feedback from folks. And one guy said that, basically that he's going to have to disagree with me that his box like had some issues with the clamps or whatever, like they closed the door, and he never got an answer from Buzbe on customer service, and he had a terrible experience. So I would tell you that is not my experience. I've had no issues with mine at all. They're watertight. Yep. They hold all the tackle in the little containers like you like them. Like I said, you can take them in and out. You can actually have like sometimes I'll just take them out and then I'll use that big kind of blank space to put like my bigger baits or whatever in. Yeah. And then, and they have like a normal one and they have a deep one. So
that's what I like. They got options.
Yeah. Yeah, you can even get like a deeper one if you have like a glide bait or something bigger that you want to put in there.
Where are these like price point wise? Are they kind of like in the ballpark of like the Plano Edge stuff?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty comparable. Like Plano Edge obviously isn't like super cheap. I think you can kind of get into like the deep one is showing around $50. And then like the smaller ones are like $30.
Gotcha. That's reasonable though. I mean, it sounds like they hold up. Now, Sean, you've jumped into another one of Buzbe's products, and I don't know if we talked about it on Gear of the Week, but why don't we can give it a mention and find out, because I know that they offer a variety of items that are dedicated to tackle organization.
We did talk about it. I got the cube. I ordered it online. I got the larger one.
Yep.
I think it's
that's right.
The 3.5 or 4 inches deep, and I use that for my plastics, and I love it to death. So, I'm pretty simple with my plastics. Yep. I take them out of their original bags, which some people really don't like doing. I do it and put them into, well, hell, look at this. There's another cheap advertisement. My Great Value quart-size freezer bags, because I like the zippers, and I roll them up and put them right into the Buzbe cube, and I have plenty of room, and they do a great job.
Yeah,
I stow it right under my seat, so they're always within reach.
The guest that I'm interviewing next tomorrow, actually I'm interviewing Jeff and Paul from the Aggressively Average Anglers podcast. They're big fans of Buzbe as well, and actually just recently they did a video on their experience with Buzbe, some of their items, specifically using them for like BFS, because they have some storage options that are really small and lend itself to being able to pack really, really light. But then also like getting into, they were talking about, this was actually a video about kayak crates and like, you know, what you could fit in certain stuff, and Buzbe came up there. But man, I've had, you know, Buzbe's had my attention now for a little bit, and I knew that it was definitely one of these things that were, you know, from the way it sounds like they're durable as hell. I've had issues with some of the flambeau stuff. I've had issues with some of the Plano stuff. Like nothing is bulletproof necessarily. I've never gotten into the Plano Edge stuff. But I might play around with Buzbe and see what we've got, because so many people have had said such good things about it. Like even Zach from Dark Horse Tackle says flipped his canoe and they're all still floating inside, no problem. That's freaking awesome.
I will tell you, like, you know, I was just kind of, while you were talking, looking through their website, it does seem like maybe like the locking mechanisms on them are, some people like get good ones like Paul and Zach and myself, but then like this guy, Tom from Virginia, did not have a good experience. But I will tell you, I think truthfully, I think a lot of times you have to take some of these reviews with a grain of salt, just because you don't know how they store them, where they put them, how they handle them, you know, what they're doing with them, if they're throwing them or whatever, you know, like, I think anything that you kind of are rough on. One of the problems I had with the Plano boxes, and it's not that I have any issues with the Plano boxes, I like the latching system, but if you put that, it's easily knocked out of its locked position if you manhandle it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you have issues with it. So
yeah, I could definitely see that would be an issue. I had looked into, now, like I said, I've never used the Plano Edge stuff, but I looked into some of the waterproof, like 3,700 boxes. I put together a big terminal tackle box, and I found that on the Plano one, that gasket just leaked. I would get moisture in there, and it ruined a lot of terminal. And then I have the Flambeau one has been great. I've had issues with some of the latches breaking, you know, and that's the one thing. The Buzbe, the 36 size and the 3700 size, they're metal latches, which is nice. You know, that I think is definitely something that I think is interesting, and you know, that's a pretty good endorsement. And the other thing too about like reviews and folks, I guess, having their experiences with a brand or a company, like there's always outlying situations, and you never know exactly like what's going on. Some people just, they expect like, oh, this broke, they're going to replace it. Oh, they didn't replace it. It's like, well, you know, maybe you've had it for 6 months, and there's quite the likelihood that, you know, it was overstuffed. That's my biggest issue with these tackle boxes, is trying to fit way more shit in there than there should be. Like piecing things together. Well, it sit flat. Perfect. Why does this weigh 38
man. I've
pounds?
done that and then cracked a lid. I've done that and cracked a lid because I put too much stuff in it.
Yeah. I'm always riding that, because I'm like you, where you have that box that's the Buzbe is your everything else box. I usually have a day box that I'll put in my backpack or my sling bag if I'm bank fishing, and then when I'm on the kayak, it goes right under my seat. And that's sort of like the catch all. And I've actually, I have one that I have just for larger baits that's completely wide open. So I see the value in having a couple of those boxes for sure. So I might fool around a little bit and see what we can come up with here. But pretty good stuff, man. That is awesome. I think I'm going to take a look at Buzbe, look around and see what I can find for options and play around, see what we can check out. Maybe I'll do like a deep one and then a couple of the standard ones, or maybe a shallow one for a terminal. Who knows? I do actually have a really good terminal box going right now, but we'll see what we got.
Reviews on that cube are really good.
Yeah,
like Sean was saying.
Sean mentioned it, and then I know it was on the AAA podcast. They had talked about the cube as well, and I'm like, that is pretty awesome. Like, even if you were to dedicate one when it comes to soft plastics, I like to leave the ones that come in a clamshell. So like all my like Kitech Fat Impact swim baits and all that stuff, that goes in there. If it comes in that clamshell, I just like it to keep its shape. So I might do one to store, just like I'm talking about the back stock. I might just get totes and just do that and just keep all those in there, and then utilize like the wallets for when I'm actually on the go with stuff that I have to work on. But luckily, it's only mid-December right now, and we still have a couple of months, yay, of this winter bullshit. So I'll have plenty of time to play with my tackle, and you know, this is going to be a big year, replacing hooks, like a lot of shit that I never did, and I'm doing. This year made me a believer. Good stuff, folks. We're going to go through these comments here. Actually, go ahead, Brandon. You got something to throw in there.
One more thing, so I go to Canada every year, and we spend a week in the Quetico, no phones, no access to anything or anywhere. We portage, we're rough on our stuff. We have waterproof bags. I will tell you that besides the Buzbe box, if you're looking for a good, and I know this is going to sound crazy, like a good quality waterproof box, at Academy Sports's H2OX boxes, they're blue. And they have, like the locking mechanism and the gasket or whatever.
Yeah.
Those boxes are awesome, and they're super, super affordable. So if you're not wanting to spend $30 to $50 on a waterproof box, go over to Academy. I'm not sponsored by Academy. Jacob Wheeler is not my best friend. You guys go check them out. They're like $6 a box. They're really, really good.
Freaking love it, man. I freaking love it. Guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with our third and final segment. We're going to wrap things up, but this is the last call. I'm getting your questions in the comments. If you're part of the live stream that's on Facebook right now, watching us record this show, or if you're one of our jig heads that's over on YouTube, go ahead and leave your comments in here, your questions for Brandon. And we're going to do a little quick AMA before we wrap things up. We got a couple of questions in there already. Don't go too far, guys. We got much more Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up right after this. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jig head and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jig heads, and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Alrighty, guys. guys? Bobby Roast Beef here. We have not an interview segment for you guys. No. We're still in the live stream right now. I've got Sean the Fisherman and I've got Dust Off Fishing with us. We got some good stuff to talk about here. We asked the viewers of our little live stream here that's happening on Facebook, kind of wide open to the public, because we kind of wanted folks to be able to engage a little bit with Brandon. And also, we want you guys to be ready because next week we're doing that conversation about technology in fishing. Like, what are we dealing with? Where could it go? What do we like? What do we not like? All kinds of stuff. We're going to weigh in for you, and we want you to weigh in with us. So next week's show is going to be a good one. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to there's a couple of these that are just straight up statements, which are a little bit interesting. Like this first one right here from the Jabberhammer from Paul. He says, when you come down to North Carolina, I'm going to play with your tackle. I'm
scared, and I need an adult.
I'm going to leave it at that. I think that was directed more towards me. Unless, are you, Brandon, are you going to South Carolina or North Carolina? Maybe we should work something out. Maybe we'll get
I'd love to. I never got the invite from the Jabberhammer. I'm not on the same level as you, Bobby.
We're putting it together. We're going to make it happen. This one is we're going to go with an actual question, not a statement here right now. But so the Jabberhammer goes, Brandon, if you had to smell a butthole fart or lick Jabberhammer's big toe, what would you choose?
How close do I have to be to the fart butthole?
I mean, I just think it's within smelling distance. So really, I would say, is it like right up next to it there, or is it like do you have to feel it? You know what I mean? Like,
what's the difference between a butthole fart and
any other fart?
Normal, so yeah, a run of the mill fart, because they all come out of buttholes. I mean, what are we going at here, Paul?
I'm pretty sure if I met Paul in person, I would smell his butthole fart in the first 5 seconds, whether I wanted to or not. So I'll pick that one.
Wow. Paul is a serial farter.
Paul says, yeah, it's a wet fart. Okay. It's juicy. Sean, I'll show you a wet fart.
No, you will not.
And Jimmy goes fishing. Oh, good God. That's a queef, my friend.
That's a queef. God.
That's something different.
Aren't they all? I mean, they're not all wet.
Paul did have a gleaming moment of clarity there when he wrote, Sean is done with this tonight, and misspelled tonight. Yeah,
he did.
You're right. Absolutely right, Paul. I am done with this tonight.
The butcher,
wet butthole.
The butcher took this opportunity to look for a helicopter ride. Now, I don't know that that's possible. If he's able to fly, over New England and just do a quick pickup, I don't want to, I obviously can't extend that, but I'll assume that if it is a situation, then Dust Off will be in your DMs there, Ryan. Everybody wants to fly in a chopper. Oh, look at this from Jimmy Goes Fishing.
I do want to come to Camp Hookset, man. Like, I don't remember what was happening last year, but
it was
super jealous.
Mid-September, man, and I'll tell you, dude, the fishing was horrific. Ryan Nye and Nelson put on a fucking clinic, and everybody else was like,
I caught a couple bluegill on Sunday, and maybe a largemouth too.
It was terrible. Oh, God, it was terrible. I feel like I'm missing stuff in the regular chat. Yep, exactly. He says, awful. Will you come to next hook set, he says. Next Camp Hook Set. I think that's going to be a regular
When
thing.
is it? I told Lackwood, so a buddy of mine's going to make me come out to the War College, which is in Rhode Island. And when I had a buddy out there last time, I went and saw Cody. So
nice.
I told him I was going to make it a trip where I'd go see my buddy and then I'd go over to Cody's and see him
adjacently. There you go. Nice, man.
I am going to have to, ask Cody to make sure that he's not having any conversations with his dog when I come to his house. Otherwise, not a whole lot of fishing is going to happen.
No, it was something, man. It was something. This is a question for you, Dustoff. Brandon, if you found a frog in your boot, would you eat it or throw it at Bobby?
You got an aversion to frogs, man, or what?
Paul, do you have any non-butthole and non-frog questions tonight? We're looking for non-butthole, non-frog. Thank you.
We like the frog question. We want to get to the root of this. Is Bobby scared of frogs?
I'm not afraid of frogs. Frogs are great. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like getting a frog in your boot is tough. You know, I keep them laced up tight. I'm not getting a frog in there. Unless,
truthfully, I would just gently release it into the wild to let some snake eat it or whatever. Definitely wouldn't eat it. I mean, I would if it was big and I was starving. And I mean, there's a whole lot of things going on with the rest of this question.
It really is very confusing.
When we were in the Army, or I am in the Army, but when we were in SEER school, you have to kill a rabbit and a chicken with your bare hands. Karate chopped this rabbit straight up.
That's rough. Chickens, it's like done, you know. Rabbit, that takes something out of you.
Apparently, well, not apparently, I watched this because I did it, but if you hold it by its back feet and then you just kind of rock it slowly, it somehow lulls it into pacification.
Really?
And then that lines it up real good to give it a
whack.
Karate chop.
No shit. This one kind of ties in with Elise's question earlier, sort of. Brandon, if you shit your pants, would you wash it in the bathhouse sink or throw it in the fire pit?
How many other pairs of pants do I have? I have to always ask these questions with the question.
Yeah. No,
I have no other pairs of pants. I'm washing them. If I don't, fire.
It's kind of
like if you took a shit in a bathroom and you didn't have toilet paper, would you use your sock and then leave it?
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
I tell you what I would do. I would get on the phone because I've done this, and I would call the guy at the front desk of CVS, and I would tell him to bring me a roll of toilet paper because we were out.
Birch trees. Birch trees, birch trees, birch trees.
You ever notice that's become a new style thing for bathrooms? People will put birch wood, with the bark, stylizing the edge of a mirror. Just take it off the wall and wipe your ass with it.
So we had a big conversation about this on the live the other day about having to take a shit while you're out fishing. And, I never leave home without a set of wipes.
Oh, hell no.
Ever.
Yeah. I got some nice outdoorsman ones that are individually wrapped as a backup. I have a little dry box I keep in the kayak. It gets real sometimes, There was an instance.
You're human. Your bowels work. Remember, we talked about this.
There was an instance where Sean and I were out, and we were going to load up the kayaks, and I was like, all right, I got to go make a deposit. I'll be back. So I go running off into the woods, and as I'm squatting, doing my business, and then locating said birch tree, I had, appropriate paraphernalia to handle the job, even a shovel. I did it the right way. But when I'm sitting, I'm literally squatting in the woods, and a car pulls up 35, 40 feet in front of me. During the day, there were no headlights or anything. They couldn't see me.
Kids get out of the car. Everybody's like, Mommy, what's that guy doing over there?
What's that smell?
Well, I walked out and I looked at it. I was like,
hey, guys, stay out of the woods over there. There was a fucking Sasquatch that just shat everywhere.
And then I went and I loaded up my boat. It was
2 foot long coil over that tree. Watch out.
Oh, Jesus. Fucking Sasquatch. And I think this is the last question that we've got from the Jabberhammer. He says, Brandon, if Sean the angler slapped you across the face, would you hug Paul or Alex, the short bitch from Bass and Brews? There's a lot to unpack here.
I feel okay. So
why am I slapping you across the face?
I know he has a problem with the word fisherman, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because, you don't want to be a sexist
person.
I'm sure if I got slapped by Sean, I would deserve it, and I would hug the closest person to me. If that would be Paul, then Jabberhammer's getting it. Alex, hey, he's the guy.
Gravy Fishing goes, well, this conversation went down the pipes.
Yeah, I did.
I'll hug whoever. I don't give. I'm not too good to give out hugs, man.
Dan Griffin puts a question out here. This is for us. He goes, "Are you going live for the electronic show?" Yep, we're going to be going live on Facebook for that because we want everybody's feedback for all this stuff. So for sure, this was a mistake on my part. I was like, "Yeah, we'll do this. It sounds awesome," and then I forgot that Joe was headed to Mexico to drink some margaritas and get Montezuma's revenge and all that stuff. So yeah, that was my mistake. So yeah, we'll definitely see you there for sure. Just like anything with Bass and Brews, we take it way off into bullshittery. Somebody's got to, I thought that was our job initially, but I was proven wrong. I was proven that we are actually a journalistic experience with integrity and professionalism somehow, which is amazing. These things happen.
Are you ready for our show?
Exactly. I mean, we tried to run it into the gutter, but we can't. We can't seem to make it happen.
Or we can't run it into the gutter as well as Paul and Alex do.
No, it's true. That is true. I mean, they have upped their standards, or so up ours.
I've been on both shows.
Yeah.
They're equally as entertaining.
Yeah. I think that's what it's all about. My God. This is really good. Let's go ahead. We're going to wrap things up on the other side of this.
Hi there.
We're back. Segment number 3, wrapping things up. This was awesome. Brandon, thank you for being part of the show. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you being part of it.
Dude, loved it.
It is awesome. We still have some great comments coming in here. Paul says, only Alex can get hammered enough to spill a cup of booze on his lap. That's true. Although I'm the only guy who can smoke
during the podcast or like ever?
Yeah, no, that's like during the podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I did get a call that what was it last week? I was smoking a bunch of jigglers through the entire live stream on Binya's channel, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Answering questions and it was fine. It worked out great. Actually, I recorded that segment. We might play it on here. But one of our listeners, one of our jig heads actually decided to go hit for hit with me through the show. And he was like,
dude, I couldn't move.
It was rough. And yeah, that was interesting. So I don't know if that's going to happen too often, but we'll see. We'll play around with it. This is great, dude. I appreciate you being on here, Brandon, I really do. Sean, anything you want to wrap up with before we call it a night?
Everyone, be safe this week. Have a great Christmas, great holiday celebration, whatever you're doing out there. And we'll see you on the other side of the holiday.
It's true. Christmas is coming, folks. If you're looking for that last-minute gift, you're not sure exactly what to do, let me make a little gift suggestion right here. What you can do is go into the section of our podcast description right there. We've got some links for partners right there. We've got links for Dark Horse Tackle, and we have links for Omnia Fishing. We've also got links for Reaction Tackle. All of those 3 offer gift cards. It's a great last minute gift for that angler in your life. And if you use those links over there, you are absolutely supporting the show. They are affiliate links, and everybody, they all offer a little something different, which is really, really great. So we got it all covered for you guys. Jigs and Bigs just has it happening. Before we wrap up, Dust Off, you want to give out any kind of shout outs or anywhere where folks can follow you, any companies that you're working with you want to give a little shout out to, any kind of like promo codes or anything? This is your moment. Go for it.
No, but if you liked the show, you enjoyed it, get on the affiliate links for Jigs and Bigs and hit up Omnia Reaction or what was the other one? Dark Horse.
Dark Horse, yeah.
And do that to support your favorite show, because these guys probably couldn't do it without those sponsors.
Oh, fuck no, we couldn't. Appreciate that, dude. Awesome, man. Well, it's been a good show. This is really good. I hope you guys, if nothing else, are tremendously entertained. Next week, we got a great show coming up, and then it's only a few more shows. Then we're going to be at that big number 200. Please, guys, go ahead and get your tickets right now. There's a link in the description of this podcast. You can visit jigsandbigs.com. Keep in mind that this is a food event. So what we've got that we're dealing with is we need to have a head count, and then tickets are going to get shut down. Go ahead and get your tickets now to support this amazing cause, Veterans Inc. We've had a number of folks this last week that have gotten their tickets, but there are folks that are out there that have said, oh yeah, man, I'm going to be there. And I just want to make sure everybody realizes you need an advance ticket. You guys are absolutely amazing. We're going to have a great time, and we're going to do some good for the veterans in and around our community, and we're going to have some laughs, and we're going to eat some elk, and we're going to eat some wild boar, and we're going to eat all kinds of great, tasty, delicious animals. And it's going to be wonderful. And I hope you all can join us. Have a great one, everybody. In 7 days, we will be back. More Jigs and Bigs goodness. Do us a favor. I want to, give a shout out specifically. Alec Plotnikevich has been just sending out, tagging us in reel after reel. He's out there getting it in Western Massachusetts in this December weather. It is insane. He's catching them. If you're catching them, especially if you're in this area, do me a favor and tag us, because I at least want to know what I'm missing out on. At the very minimum, folks, help a bitch out. Let me live vicariously through you. We'll share you on our stories. It'll be awesome. Have yourselves a great one. Enjoy your holiday. We will check you in another 7 days. Don't go too far, folks. This is Jigs and Bigs. Like we always say. Wrong button, Bobby. Wrong button.
Tits and ass, smokes and grass.